All right, so as you can see here, we are building a lot of little mini golf courses. And here is the way to start this easily. I'm just going to go ahead and start with a big block on the ground. Notice I am starting it with actually pulling it up and then drawing into it. I would recommend not just starting with a flat piece of ground and then drawing stuff on top of it. Physics doesn't seem to like flat surfaces like this. It likes 3D volume. So make sure that as you're making the beginnings of your course, I would recommend starting with a big kind of chunk block like this. I'm going to use my line tool and just go ahead and make some sides real quick, kind of cutting into that block and then pulling them up a little bit more so that my ball doesn't jump out of it. And at this point, I've got kind of the outskirt of a course built. So before I get too far, I'm going to build the hole, push that down a little bit, not too far so that it goes through the ground, but something like that. I can also then maybe make some little obstacles or something. And you can be creative here. That's the goal. You can make something simple with this, but eventually we're hoping that you start to do like some different angles and maybe do two different tiers and the ball drops down, stuff like that. But we'll start pretty simple. So once you've got the course kind of sketched out, we need to triple click it all and we need to make it a component or a group. Pretty much the same thing, but I like to make things a group. So it's all one big connected thing. Now, remember, the shapes in SketchUp have to be static mesh. So if I go to MS Physics down here, I just right-click my shape, and then the shape option, every single piece of ground that doesn't move needs to be set as static mesh. Okay, so yeah, if I click the UI menu and check this piece out, a lot of people I've seen make the mistake of not actually changing the shape and just clicking the static button. Static, yes, means it doesn't move, but the entire shape has to be a static mesh, and there's a reason. If I set the shape to be just a compound, it thinks that this like empty space where I've cut out is still like solid, and static mesh means it like kind of goes and the ball will recognize the cutouts and everything. So again, the shape has to be a static mesh. The ground level is static mesh. The ball and the club and everything will not be, but we'll get to that in a second. So now I've got a cutout here. I need to make a ball. So if you remember, we make a circle on the ground, and then we make our mouse get to the middle where it actually kind of locks in and says center. And then using the left or right, up, down keys on my keyboard, you just kind of want to make sure that you're angled to go vertical, because I want to draw a vertical circle now in the middle of that. From here, I use my spacebar, my selection tool. I just want to click that horizontal ground level circle. So when I have that selected, this is the path that I want it to follow. So now, over here on my large tool set, I have this follow me tool. So I click that, I click the vertical circle, and then that thing follows that path around. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete the remaining part of my ring. The ball needs to be a group or a component as well. And then S, if I tap that, it will do scale. So I want to scale it down to about the size of a golf ball. And then M for move, drag that into my course. If I go ahead and play this right now, it should, the ball, see how it kind of drops in. And then you can use your mouse to kind of like, well, that was kind of hard. You should be able to use your mouse at this point to just kind of flick the ball around the course, make sure it actually works. Mine's kind of laggy since I have so much other stuff working. Well, we'll come back to that. So now we need to build the golf club. So at this point, we've got the ball, we've got the course, we need to build the club. We're going to draw a simple golf club. We're just going to start with the block on the ground. I'm going to push that up a little bit. I'm going to make a line, let's say right here. And then we're going to push the handle, push the handle up a little bit, something like that. And as usual, we need to make that a component. So at this part, we need to add our first joint piece, a hinge in this case. So we've got hinges, motors, servos, sliders, all these different things that if you're interested, you can look on tutorials on YouTube. But we're really only going to be focused on hinges and motors at this point. So a hinge, if I look at some of these other courses, you can see I've got this hinge, kind of like what a door has. It swings back and forth. So this is going to let me swing my club back and then hit the ball. Because at this point, if I don't have it on a hinge and I try to play this, my club is just going to be like all over the place, and that's not really going to work. It's kind of funny to look at, but it's not going to actually physically swing. So what I would recommend is that you get the camera to a point where it's almost like you're walking up to the club. So a side view and like you're walking up to grab it. And then we're going to click the purple hinge piece up here, and we're going to kind of go to the center of this club, and we're going to pull it straight back. Usually you want to follow this colored line because this is like coming right back at the camera along this axis. If you don't do it along that, it's going to be at a weird angle. So we want to make sure that the hinge is like flat with this club because this is the way that the club wants to swing. Okay? So it's not quite done yet. We've added the hinge, but we need to actually connect it to the club. So right next to it, and by the way, this is a scale right here. So if your hinge looks really, really small, you can click this and set the scale to be higher. But we need to actually click this joint connection tool. What this does is it says select the piece that I want to connect. So in this case, I'm going to click my club. Now it says hold shift and then click the joint to connect it to. So I'm going to hold shift. You see a little plus sign appear, and I click the hinge. And now you can see they're both highlighted. They're both connected. So if I play this, my club might swing back. And I'm guessing it's not going to. And there's a reason. I don't know if you guys can see. Do you see how it's like stuck in the ground down there? Kind of. So the reason why I want to show you this is a lot of people draw the club and it's going to work, but it's just not quite there. The reason why is it's like attached to the ground, so it doesn't really have any room to swing back. It's kind of rubbing and it gets stuck. So all we need to do is I'm just going to click that. I'm going to shift click my club, so I'm grabbing both of these. I'm just going to use M for move and drag this up a tiny bit just so that it's going to stay off of the ground. So now when I play the animation, the club can just be pulled back. Oops, I hit the ball early. And the club swings along that hinge piece that I have, and it should just kind of keep on swinging, and it should hit the ball, right? And if your ball doesn't get all the way there, you can always use your mouse to kind of like nudge it in the right way, okay? So that's the basics on how to build a simple golf course. Again, the course itself has to be static mesh. Everything else can just be a compound, but you have to connect the hinge. Hopefully you build a simple course, and then you work your way into building a little bit more fancy of a course. Again, they kind of have a theme, for example. This one's like a rocky mountain course that goes down. This one, if I hit the ball, it kind of goes down the ramp here. So I made like a 2-layered course. So if I pull it here, it kind of goes down, slides along the ramp. I've got so many courses and so many spinning things that it goes really slow at this point. But the ball, hopefully, will get in. And you don't need to make it so that your course always hits a hole in one, but your course should kind of work, and you should at least be able to, throw the ball into the hole if it's not ready. Last thing that you might consider is, and I'll show this real quick. For example, I've got a windmill that works here, and you can see kind of tucked inside here, I added a motor piece. So this was a separate group, this little windmill, and I attached it to the motor. So for example, if I drew a big piece, and we'll just say that this is going to be a windmill, I'll make a quick little group here, and I attach a motor to the middle of it. Make sure that you look at the direction of your hinge. Like this one, it's going up and down. I don't really want it to go that way, so I have to redraw it until it's facing the right way. So in this case, I think I want it to go on this blue line. Yeah, there we go. So again, same process. I use the connection tool, click the shape, hold shift, click the hinge. On a motor, we'll make it spin around that motor in the center, okay? And if you want to get real fancy with it, you can get in, click the motor. You can set a bunch of stuff in here like acceleration speed and stiffness and all these different forces. But hopefully, after you make a couple simple courses, you can start to think about some more complicated ones and make some creative courses on your 9-hole course. course. So good luck. Have fun.